All right. This segment is going to be about the pineal gland, the pineal gland, or pineal. The pineal gland is a small gland that is located in between the brain with the left and right hemispheres of the brain next to the hypothalamus gland and the pituitary gland. That it's a small cone-shaped pea-sized gland, and it secretes both serotonin and melatonin. Which serotonin is released in the daytime, and melatonin is released at night, approximately say after 10 p.m. That's why they say it's always good to sleep between 11 and between the hours of 11 and 3 or 11 and 4. That's when the pineal gland is activated and it's giving you all the melatonin you need for relaxation and sleep. But it's also responsible for connecting you to the spiritual world or higher self or the self of enlightenment. These things were studied by Greeks in the past. Descartes is one Greek, is one. They took their information from the Kemites or the Egyptians, which had the all-seeing eye, or should I say the eye of Horus or the eye of Heru. That is nothing more than your pineal gland as it reaches its highest, as you reach your highest in spirituality. As you reach your highest in spirituality, due to Kundalini activation through the spine, up the back of the spine, all the way up to the back of your brain, where the pineal gland is and sits between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Uh, then it becomes it's also referred to as the seat of the soul, or the seat of God, or the seat of the soul. Once that is reached, once the peak of that is reached, then you are now enlightened. But it is a lot of different factors that play in it. As we know, as black people, as melanated people, our pineal glands continue to work properly throughout our lives if we eat properly and drink the proper foods and don't put a lot of fluoride in our bodies and a lot of GMOs that could genetically modified organisms or GMOs, genetically modified foods in our systems that block the potential of the pineal gland's usage and activation. So I will give some examples right now of how the ancients knew the pineal gland wasn't only used for sleep, relaxation, and calming you down at night for sleep, but it also connects you to the spiritual realm, which is the higher realms of consciousness, which is your higher consciousness, which when you awaken and you become enlightened, your pineal gland it performs more, especially at night when you're getting the right proper sleep. Because then, of course, you heal better, you sleep better, your body calms down, and you're able to go off into the spiritual realm. Sometimes you remember, sometimes you don't. But that is the only place where you can't be touched. Now, I'll give an example of the pineal gland in the Bible. Because if you don't know how to break it down, then you wouldn't know that this is what they were talking about. But the Bible is a very tricky book, controversial nonetheless, and I don't mess with it like that. I just look at it for codes for people that are willing and to understand the codes. Okay, so here's one code. It starts at Genesis 32, verse 22, where it says, Jacob wrestles all night, and his name is changed to Israel. Now, in older testaments, he wrestled with an angel. But in this testament, which is the New International Version that I have, because they keep changing things, therefore it gives you a clue that this book is not accurate, because they got to keep changing stuff. But anyway, this is one example of it. When it says, so Jacob was left alone. This is 32 verse 24 of Genesis. So Jacob was left alone, and the man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched his hip, the socket of his hip, wrenched his hip, damaged his hip. That's why a lot of Israelites don't eat meat from the hip or the tendon from the hip of certain animals or whatever. They won't eat from that because of what happened to Jacob in here, which is kind of crazy, stupid. But anyway, it says, when the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip so that his hip was wrenched, and he as he wrestled with him. Then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. The clue is when the man says, let me go, for it is daybreak. Listen. But Jacob replied, now let's stop here with, let me go, for it is daybreak. It is known that the pineal gland is strongest at night and it's weakest in the daytime. It is known that the pineal gland secretes melatonin at night and then serotonin in the daytime. So therefore, its functions at night is not the same as its functions in the daytime. So let's get down to business. Where it says, but Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Now, that in itself, he said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Who is Jacob talking to? Is he talking to an angel? Is he talking to a man? Or is Jacob talking to himself? So now, let's go back into the book, to the scripture, because, we got so many people wanting to basically discard this because they don't read. It says, but Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. Right? And the man asked him, then he asked him, he says, the man asked Jacob, he said, what is your name? Right? Jacob, he answered. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel. Okay, so this is their reasoning for Israel and all of the takeover and all of the stuff when Jacob was having all these problems with Laban and Laban's flock and disputes over land and cattle and stock and women and children and all of this mess. It was nothing but a takeover. It was nothing but them taking land from another people. That's basically what that was. But God said that he could take the land. It belongs to him. And that's what God says. The God of Bethel, which was formerly named, the city and town, Bethel, was formerly named Luz. So we need to look up Luz and Bethel. But anyway, let's get back to what I was saying. It says, the man asked him, what is your name? And Jacob had it. My name is Jacob. Then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, it will be Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome. Jacob said, please tell me your name. The man said, why do you need to know my name? Why do you ask me my name? Then he blessed him there. So Jacob called the place that he was blessed. Listen closely. Jacob called the place where he was blessed Pineal. Pineal. Now in the Bible, they're going to spell it different, so you can't make a correlation between the two. They spell it Peniel. Okay, but pineal gland is spelled Pineal. Gland. So he named the place where he got blessed and where he wrestled with this so-called angel of man, Pineal. So basically, this is what it is. It's a spiritual message, and that message is saying Jacob, or the character Jacob, wrestled with himself all night, just like we do. When we want to make a decision, when we have indecisive decisions, when we battle in between the light and the darkness of ourselves, when we battle in between the lower side of ourselves and the higher side of ourselves, when we're battling with the materialistic side of ourselves and the spiritual side of ourselves, we're battling what's inside the mind. We're not battling it outside nobody else. We're not swinging at thin air, We're battling between our mind and what should we do, what we can't do, what we should do, what we would not do, what we can't do. The pineal gland is a spiritual gland, and it connects you to spirituality of higher consciousness. That's why they call it the doorway to consciousness, because it's the doorway to consciousness. Is also called the seat of the soul. Look it up. It's called the seat of the soul, the seat where the soul sits. because that is the highest part of self, the pineal gland. The pineal gland, a small cone-shaped pea-sized gland in between the right and left brain, supported by the hypothalamus and the pituitary glands. Secretes serotonin and secretes melanin after 11 o'clock at night. Now, you can find that the pineal gland itself is connected to the retina. It has a connection between itself and your eye retinas. And in your eye retinas, they can find melanin. They can find melatonin and melanin in your eye retinas, which has a connection to your pineal gland. So therefore, hence, it gives it the name the third eye, because it's connected to your two eyes, but you can't see that eye because it's inside your brain. But it has a connection between itself and your eye retinas. These things here. Inside that retina is melanin. Melanin comes from the pineal gland. It secretes through the pineal gland. Our pineal gland as black people works, if properly done right, which is another video for that, when you cleanse your pineal gland and certain types of foods that you should eat. It's parts of our pineal gland that stays activated while Caucasians calcifies after a certain age, maybe 12 or 13. Caucasians, white people's pineal gland stops working. It stops being functioning as ours function for the rest of our lives, which keeps us connected, or keeps us with the potentiality to be connected to a spiritual side of ourselves, and a spiritual side of higher self, and a spiritual side of the universal creator. This is why we are constantly attacked. This is not the only reason, but it is one of the reasons why we're constantly attacked by outside entities that have that jealous envy thing, where they cannot do what we can naturally do, connect to our own higher self, higher forms of spirituality, and higher forms of spirituality through the universal creator. When we connect to that, which is the higher side of self, because Jacob only wrestled with the higher side of himself. The dark side of himself was the materialistic side of himself. The physical side of himself was wrestling with the spiritual high sense side of himself. That is why when the daytime came, the angel or the man that Jacob wrestled with got weak and was like, I'm done here. I can't, it's done. Because in the daytime, melanin becomes weak. It becomes obsolete, and serotonin takes over when it comes to the secretion of the pineal gland. When the morning time came and the man was no longer wrestling with Jacob. Jacob named the place that he was supposedly blessed and named Israel. He was supposedly blessed and no longer is Jacob. His name is Israel. He named that place Pineal because that is where he realized for his higher self. He left his lower self and became his higher self. And when he became the higher self, he was enlightened or illuminated or lucent, and he was able to see things that other people was not able to see through divine knowledge. But they're not going to put that in there. It's through divine knowledge, the battle between oneself, dark side of self, and the light side of self. That is why, and in the book, because they use the word God so loosely, that is why it says, because you have struggled with God and with men, because you have struggled with your higher side of self and the lower side of self. The higher side of self is not a man. The lower side of self is a man or woman, because you're in the physical, material side of self. And when you're trapped in the material side of self, whether it be vain, looking at yourself all the time, thinking you're fine, talking that ego tripping, doing all of that, going to the store, look at my clothes, look at this, look at my shoes, look at all that. You are on a lower plane. That is why when you watch rap videos and you watch a lot of Negroes falling into this pattern where they're, look at my diamonds, I'm flossing, look at my money, I'm flossing, look at my flat, because those that are in charge of the music industry, which are the Jews that know a lot about this magic that we call magic, but it's really our shit. They know that every time you see a black man on TV acting a fool, especially with materialism and lust, they know that man will never reach his highest potential of itself, because he is expressing everything on a low vibration, everything on a low side of self. So if he knows that all the time keep black people looking crazy, all on TV looking like gang bang, all on TV, keep them looking like that because their pineal glands work. And if they get onto the right path, all of them at one time, it's gonna be so unstoppable to deal with that creator energy that we're gonna have to move off the planet. That's what they know. So what they do is they distract black people. They destroy everything black people ever done. They keep our consciousness at a low level vibration. We keep each other's consciousness on a low level vibration so that we can be on a low level like their vibration is. And I'm not saying that we're better than anyone. I'm saying that we just so happen to be enlightened naturally through the creator of the universal creator. That's just all. That's facts. That's all. It has nothing to do with downing somebody else. If I look at a cockroach or a water bug, and then I look at a tiny little cockroach, which one is going to be more of a threat to me if I see a bunch of them? Both of them are threats, but it's going to be the bigger one, the original one, that's going to be a threat to me. It's not going to be the rest. Not to say that the rest aren't any good or they're not great, but they're never like the original. And that's what we represent, the original. And the original brings back forth the original organic natural energy, which is in the same cacaic or rhythms of the planet Earth itself, which we correspond with. Why we correspond with it? Because when we got here, yes, I said it, when we got here, our melanin adjusted to the sun, to everything on this planet, because we had high dosages of higher self, high dosages of understanding, high dosages of self, high dosages of high consciousness, and along with melanin and pigmentation, or should I say not pigmentation, melanation, we also adapted very fast. And that's our strength, is adaptability. We adapt very fast to our surroundings. We adapt and we grow. When we adapt and grow, we then assess the situation. We don't destroy it. We make the situation a part of us and make that situation a part of us, and that situation becomes a part of us and we become a part of it. And everything is in unison, naturally, not forced upon. It has to be forced upon when it's an artificial entity and it's not natural. It has to force everything upon you and distract you. So when you looking at stuff in the book of the Bible and you see all that evil that the God in the Bible is doing, the distraction, you got to ask yourself, what is that? Because you are the true higher self. And through that, you will know the universal creator. That is part one of this, the pineal gland. Like I said, go to Genesis verses 32, 22, all the way through 33, verse 8. Genesis. You will see that they're talking about the pineal gland, the most ancient, the most powerful source of spirituality inside your mind. But it doesn't mean that the heart, the eyes, the brain, the heart, the eyes, and other parts of your body, chakras, don't help that correspondence. But first, know that the pineal gland is not bad. Look up the pineal gland, Pineal, gland. Look at the history of it. Look at what it can do. Look at what it has done, and look how it can connect you to the spiritual realms of higher self. Peace. Stay strong. Stay strong, brothers and sisters, and kin men alike. Peace.